the role models that I've talked about are often, men, and it's like as an adolescent and even as a man growing up. I was explaining, I spent a lot of time in men's groups. It's like it's been a pivotal thing for me to change, some bad behaviors that I had, but also like to elevate me to a new level. I'd love to just start this next part of our conversation with a broad brushstroke of, the importance of having men in one's life, because that wasn't a thing for me until I was like 21, and then now it's become like a necessity. And I think that a lot of guys, like some friends that I've made, they're like, and then I've introduced to men's group and stuff like that, which I try and do with as many guys as possible. Is like they're like, whoa, dude, I didn't even know I was missing this. And like I'd love you to just, if you can just share like, yeah, the importance that you see in it, and then we can dive down into some nuance.
Yeah, I mean, again, from a logical standpoint, right? If you've got, a bunch of people that are gathering together, a bunch of kids that are gathering together, and they're all playing games, like that's great, and we can all play various games at different times, all around each other, and that's cool. And there's an element of socialization. I'm over here playing soccer, you're over here hitting a baseball, you're over, like you guys are over here shooting hoops, and like that's cool, man. That's awesome. At some point, it's really fun if everybody's playing the same game because you can all work on getting better together, right? You can all come together as a team and actually get really, really good at that game. And one of the things that I think culturally we have a hard time acknowledging is that, look, yeah, everybody's in this life, everybody's moving things forward, everything, but there's there are different games played within the bigger game of life. Life is different for men than it is for women. Life is different for young men than it is for like those things are okay to acknowledge. So one of the best things we can do is to get with other people who are in roughly that same time of life and go, okay, man, let's play this together. How do we think we can play this really, really well? And then let's hold each other accountable. It's that 1, 2, 3 principle, right? It's a little easier to hold that 1, 2, 3 when you got another guy next to you because you don't want to let him down. And you've decided. So sometimes our propensity to want to make sure I don't let somebody else down, like we'll talk ourselves out of, doing anything for ourselves, but we won't want to let our buddy down, right? And so like there's value in that. And so, we're putting these men together so that they're all playing the same game at the same time in their own arena, and then they're coming back together and they're going, okay, this is what I did. This is how it worked. This did not work. What did you guys do? Somebody's like, well, this was my experience. This is how I did it. It's like, oh, okay, let me try that, right? And so it just creates this environment of support. You realize you're not alone. You're not a weirdo. You're not thinking about things crazy because shit, there's 20 other guys, 50 other guys, 100 other guys that are thinking the same kind of stuff. They're dealing with the same issues. They're dealing with the same problems. Some of them have tried some things that have actually worked that I never would have thought of. Cool, man. Now I'm going to go think of that, right? So you're all in that game together, man, and it just makes you a more effective human.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things, I had a friend of mine, Jake, back in Australia, and he was like, he's like, I walk around with this level of confidence that I have because I have the support of the men around me. And I
Hmm.
look at other men in the street and I'm like, wow, how did I ever live like that? Like,
Hmm.
how did I even have confidence? Because I
Hmm.
didn't realize how alone I was, and it's
Hmm.
like, it's the, the friendships that I've gotten from group that are now, even guys that I'm not in group anymore because I've moved from
Hmm.
Australia to Canada to here or whatever. It's like, there's a rich friendships that I'm going to keep for life because I think there's a level of commitment that we often don't see, and it's so easy to disengage
Yeah.
nowadays and just kind of drift off without even saying I'm disengaging and leaving. Whereas like when you can just stop replying and fade off into the ether, and no one ever hears you again, hears of you again, and it's like there's something about showing up every week or whatever time frame you've committed to, and then the fact that you can't leave without a challenge I think is like pretty wildly impactful because I've had period of times where I'm like, fuck this, group's stupid. I fucking hate these people. What I mean? It's just like, but the fact that we've all, like you said, we've all gone through it. Everybody goes through it, and the fact that everyone sticks through it through time, I think, builds a level of trust that was just, it's next to impossible to replicate these days.
Yeah.
Unless you're in like fighting together, you're in the
Right.
army, you're in the police force,
Right.
like those, that's,
Right.
you have to
Well,
go and
that's
hand in a resignation. Whereas with friendships nowadays, you don't have to say, hey guys, here's why I'm leaving. You
that's
you can
right.
just peace
Back
disappear.
off and disappear. Yep,
Yeah.
totally, man. And look, guys can potentially do that too, but you alluded to something that, it's in our design. Again, men and women are different, and there's, I'll talk about the fact that women um, are able to think their way sometimes better than we are into new ways of acting, whereas men have to act their ways into new ways of thinking. And it's a pretty cool design in that way. We need to be able to take action, but in that process, women again have a very have an easier time traditionally. Again, there's some things that men, some men do better than others, and that are more on the quote unquote feminine trait, and vice versa. But the reality is, women usually do a better job of that face to face conversation. Let's talk through our issues. Let's get all these things out. Let's do this. Whereas guys, can we do that? Of course we can do that. But we tend to want to go, okay, let's not do this face to face. Let's go side by side, and let's go do something together. Let's go tackle something together. Let's go create something together. Let's go beat something together. Let's go, kill something together. Let's go, like, we want to go do something together, right? It's how we're designed. And so when you have just a group of guys that are on a joint mission like that, it can be a really, really powerful thing. And it does become a hard thing to walk away from too, because you're also walking away from whatever this joint mission is, right? And that goes against our DNA too.